On today's Comic Haul, we're taking a look at what I picked up in January 2026, from new titles to older titles I found and things I found on sale, and random new stuff I picked up on a whim to try it out. It's the Comic Haul again.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and on today's video we're taking a look at my comics I picked up in January 2026. Some of these I ordered in December, didn't arrive till January. Some of these I picked up on complete whims due to sales or other kind of gap filling and collecting I went on. And there's a couple titles I picked up that I hadn't read before and just decided to go for it. And that's always a good time. So we're going to go through all of these, and if you enjoy these type of videos, hit the like button, hit subscribe and the notification bell, hit the hype button if it's available to you, and go check out the other comic hauls if you haven't already. Let's get to it. We got some cool stuff to take a look at. So as always, we're going to start off with manga, which we've got City Hunter Volume 2 coming from Kana Publishing, which is great because we had Volume 1 back in September. Volume 2 came out in January, which is pretty nice. Once again, it's 3 volumes worth of material because here we have chapters 26 through 52. And I'm actually really liking the format on these. I also really like the series. I'm a big fan of the City Hunter anime, and so it's nice to finally read the original manga in its original format, except combined into multiple volumes into one volume, because that way it doesn't take us forever to do all 38 volumes of the series, and some nice bonus material in the back as well. I think this is a good way to bring out an older series, is to not do it one volume at a time, but to do something like this, where you're getting 3 volumes for $30, because that means you're spending less than you would on individual volumes. And from a publishing standpoint, it's just, here you go, 1 volume every few months instead of having to do, again, individual volumes. Also, spine consistency, for those curious, is excellent. In fact, it does look like we have a connecting spine art, which I didn't realize when Volume 1 came out, because I was figuring, okay, yeah, Ryo's on the front, so we got Ryo on the spine, and then there's Kaoru on the front, Kaoru on the spine, but you can actually see there is a little bit of a connection there, because there's Kaoru's foot, and then the leg of whoever that's going to end up being. So when these are all done, we should have a nice, spine image, which will be super cool to see. But just another excellent release. And in the same vein, of course, we got Cat's Eye Volume 2, which I like that these are coming out not only at the same time, but literally the same time, because Cat's Eye and City Hunter are in the same universe. They are both by Tsukasa Hojo. He did Cat's Eye first, City Hunter second. And Cat's Eye is a little bit shorter than City Hunter, so City Hunter will have to go solo at some point. But this is, again, another volume that says chapters 24 through 49, so it's volumes 4 through 6. And of course, it does have the color pages included, which is always nice to see, as well as, of course, all the chapters. Cat's Eye is a little bit less mature of a title than City Hunter. City is a little bit more mature, but I find these to be really fun. I particularly love the fun energy of Cat's Eye. And then once again, we do have the spines. And the spines don't seem to be connecting on these, right? These seem to be just kind of, here's your character portraits. But there is some connection here, because it looks like they're talking to each other on the phone, which kind of makes sense. But I do like the consistency to the spine work. These will look so nice on a shelf together. Both series, having them all in English for the first time. Very much looking forward to completing those. But I'm enjoying them to read them as they come out, which I've been quite enjoying. So if you've been wanting to pick up either series, these are definitely good releases. All right, so from really good releases to kind of mixed, I'm still working on my Dragon Ball Viz-Big collection. In the last haul, I mentioned how I got Volume 5, which means I needed 4, and I ordered 4 from Barnes & Noble. I actually didn't pay that much for it. I paid like $5. I had some Barnes & Noble rewards, so I only paid for the tax and the tax, basically. And so this volume is, of course, the next batch of it. This is volumes 10 through 12 of Dragon Ball. So for me, this finishes off the early part, right? The volumes 1 through 5 that they call Dragon Ball is finished. And yeah, Viz still hasn't given us a really good Dragon Ball release. This is what I call the best one, and this is just for me personally. The translation on these Dragon Ball manga was done in the late 90s. It's not great. It's not up to modern standards. There's tons of inconsistencies, tons of weird dialogue. But the VizBigs have the color pages, they have the 2 color pages, they're on a larger print size, and it's the best way to look at the artwork, which is kind of what I'm getting them for. The only bummer is that there is some censorship, but in this case, the censorship is, for some reason, Goku being naked, totally fine, uncensored. Anybody else being naked, a problem. And middle fingers are an issue. So yeah, Goku being frontal naked, no problem whatsoever, as long as he's a child, I guess. But when there's middle fingers, nope, got to cut those out. So, there's still no definitive Dragon Ball release on high quality paper with a proper updated translation, with, all the color pages intact and no censorship. But maybe one day. But for me, for now, I'm like, yeah, I feel like it's never happening. So I'm just going for the VizBigs progressively. I've been reading them as I've been going along. I kind of forget how easy it is to read the manga because I kind of I read the entire martial arts tournament with Ten Shinhan in one sitting. It was fantastic. You can see I've kind of stopped right at the Piccolo stuff because I'm I kind of want to read all the Piccolo stuff in one go one of these evenings. Now, getting back to good releases, I decided to pick up Sailor Moon. So Barnes & Noble's doing a double stamps weekend, and I thought, all right, what better time to pick up a new manga? Not like I needed to pick up a new manga. I haven't finished reading my Dragon Balls. I haven't finished collecting my Dragon Ball ones. I still, never went back and finished the Naruto manga. I've got stuff to read. I need to, finish reading Undead Unluck, for example. But for some reason, I just have this knack to pick up a new title every once in a while. So what I decided to pick up was Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon's original manga in the Eternal Edition, which you can see because of my studio lighting. This thing has the most reflective-y, rainbowy cover to it, but I decided to see if my Barnes & Noble had the Eternal Edition, because there's 2 versions. There's this, which is in large print. Where's a standard manga volume? Yeah, so you can see here's a standard manga volume. Went and grabbed the same publisher, Kodansha. You can see how much bigger the Eternal Edition is. It's even larger than the VizBigs, which I think are pretty large size. So I really like that. I was like, okay, cool. There's large size. There's also standard size Sailor Moon volumes, which are kind of the standard $12.99 price, and they're in the normal size like these. But I went for the Eternal Edition because I've never read it before. My experience with Sailor Moon is super limited. I remember watching some of it back on, Toonami days. I think Toonami aired it, right? Early TV days for me. I saw some of it, but I never finished any of the anime. But I did watch the live action show, which I did enjoy for the attempts it made at producing a live action Sailor Moon on what was clearly not a big enough budget. So I decided, let me go read the manga, because I saw people talking about the live action Sailor Moon again, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of giving me memories. I thought, you know what, let's just pick up a volume, see how it goes. Paper quality is fantastic. This is on really nice, thick, glossy paper. The print size is good. I believe this is an updated translation from previous releases, and I am quite enjoying it, honestly. The thing was, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, and so you're like, oh, if you weren't sure, why'd you pick up the more expensive volume? Because I was like, well, if I did like it, then I want the fancier edition. I'm an Omnibus collector, so it's just one of those things. But I've been reading through it, and I've actually been quite enjoying it, because I think a lot of times, I'm not a super big Magical Girl follower, but I like the fun vibe that they give, and I also like kind of the superhero storyline stuff they do, Usagi's trying to keep her secret. But then I also like that she has kind of the cutie honey thing where she can change into different costumes for different situations. We're here where she thought a flight attendant would be good for stopping a bus, which is, she tried. But I kind of enjoy the fun vibe. And then the artwork in particular, because the artwork here, of course, the artist, the writer and artist is Naoko Takeuchi. I actually really enjoy the artwork because, I've been a fan of Cutie Honey off and on, and I say off and on because certain Cutie Honey products I think are great, and others I just find uncomfortably horny and gross. And then also, in general, there is this weird trend in manga and anime sometimes. I know it's not super widespread all the time. There's sometimes it will draw, here's a 14-year-old character and she's drawn a 23-year-old supermodel. And I find that a little uncomfortable for personal taste on that. So it's nice to see, these characters be drawn as age accurate as they are. They're not overly sexualized, which I think is fantastic because they're underage and they shouldn't be. And so it keeps that fun vibe to it, which I quite enjoy. And then it's also kind of interesting to see how fast the manga actually moves. because the manga itself is only 18 volumes or 10 volumes in these Eternal editions, and yet it had like hundreds of episodes of the original anime, so it's kind of interesting to look at it. But I'm quite enjoying it so far. I'll probably end up picking up more volumes. Since these are things that are kind of always in print, I'm just going to, like, you know, when I finish Volume 1, I'll pick up a copy of Volume 2. When I finish that, I'll pick up a copy of Volume 3. It's a good time. I actually am enjoying it more than I thought I would. So, yeah, I'm probably going to pick up the rest of them. All right, let's go indie. First of all, Transformers to All Are One Compendium. This is the Kickstarter that came in recently. I did an entire separate video on this, so I'm not going to talk about it any further. But the Compendium box set is here with all the Transformers US and UK stories. I've been reading the UK stuff for the first time, and that's been fascinating. I didn't know they had this many things happen between issue 4 and 5. I'm looking forward to reading more of this, but yeah, go check out my review of the box set if you want more details on that. So basically what I just said, but for another thing, I got Ninja Turtles Mirage Compendium 2 and Mirage Compendium 3. I did a video on the reading order and a collecting guide for the Mirage Comics Ninja Turtles. Go check that out for more details, because I went into the whole in-depth on these. But I did get them in January, so that's why they're here. All right, so comic shop pickup, Tokyo Ghost, Volume 1, The Atomic Garden. I like some cyberpunk, you know, one of my favorite literary genres, honestly. And I also like Rick Remender, and I like Sean Murphy's artwork. So I thought, yeah, all right, let me pick this up. And this is all you're going to see of it in this video, because there is a lot of, it's rated mature for a reason. There's a lot of blood and sexual content and nudity and all that stuff. But I thought, you know, like a lot of cyberpunk stories, they always are like, here's a dystopian and gritty world that seems like it'd be just the worst to live in. But where's the joy and the happiness and the hope that people hold on to? And I think it gets to that core message quite well. It ends on a cliffhanger because there is a second volume, which I've ordered. So I'm looking forward to getting the second volume and seeing how the story finishes. All right, my comic shop got some James Bond in. So I think in the last haul, I'd picked up a volume of Dynamite's James Bond comics, which was the first volume of Philip Kennedy Johnson's run. And this, they had a few more. They had a few more in the comic shop, so I was like, let me grab them while I can. This is one of those things I don't think I'm going to be, like, searching out every single volume and like, going like, oh, I got to read them in order, because I've already read all of these. Good James Bond stories should be able to be read standalone with a little bit of carryover knowledge, you know? So I'm just like, cool, I'm just going to jump into these and read them as I get them. And so basically it's like, you know, if there's a shop that has something online, if there's a shop I see in person that's got a volume I don't have, I'm going to go for it. So first of all, I got Case Files, which is a collection of one-shots. But these are kind of cool because we got a couple that are like focused on Bond, Service, and Solstice. Then you got one for Moneypenny and one for M. And Moneypenny and M are two characters that don't get a ton of focus, despite the fact they're always there in every Bond story, because, of course, M is the one giving out orders and missions, and Moneypenny is his quote-unquote secretary, but we know she can do a lot more than that. So it's kind of nice. And then the other two stories within are also pretty good. So it's a good read. All right, got James Bond Origin Volume 1. Jeff Parker got to do James Bond's Origin. And this is basically, because the Dynamite comics kind of sort of take place in the Ian Fleming novel version of Bond. That's what they take their direct inspiration from, hence why it says Ian Fleming's James Bond. They're not so much based on the movies, but this is basically Bond's time in school leading up to him joining into World War II, which is, again, consistent with like Casino Royale and that backstory of World War II Bond. And so it's got that going on with kind of the early spy stuff he was doing. There's a second volume of this, which I hopefully am getting through my Barnes & Noble. And then I'll be able to read the second half of it. Most of these are standalone miniseries, but then some of them are like 12 issues. So speaking of standalone, we got James Bond Black Box, which is done by Benjamin Percy, who I think is a good fit, because I've enjoyed his Ghost Rider and his Wolverine. So we've got, Benjamin Percy. This one was fun. This one's, kind of like, this and kind of like generally the Bond stories are good spy stories. A little bit darker than the movies go, because they are, of course, comics. So they don't have to be as rating restricted, which I think is neat. Very much in tone with the original novels in a lot of ways, which I think is fun. All right, got Kill Chain, which was done by Andy Diggle. This one was fun. I actually like this one because this one's got kind of like, it goes into the the other 00 agents and such, which I think is kind of cool. And there's like a whole mystery and a conspiracy and everything, and always good stuff. Also, I do love when they're standalones like this. I think it really lends itself to the format well. And then I also picked these up, even though I didn't actually read through the entirety of these. So we got Casino Royale, which is the Casino Royale novel done as a comic. So the script is essentially the novel itself. So you can see like the words of the novel are there, and then they put artwork to it. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's really cool. I just read the Casino Royale novel for the first time like a couple months ago. So I didn't really need to reread it, but I did go through page by page the artwork. So they did this one, and then they did the second book, which was Live and Let Die, which I actually can't show you the interiors of because it's got that mature label. And there's scenes I can't show on the YouTube without getting the demonetized. Sadly, they didn't do any more of these. I think it would have been kind of cool to continue, though I do think for a lot of hardcore Bond fans that have already read the novels probably were like, I don't need these. I almost didn't get them, but then I was like, yeah, I might as well. So yeah, they're actually numbered 1 and 2, which I think is neat. But yeah, they didn't continue the adaptations beyond this. That's all the Bond for now. All right, from Dark Horse, I got an art book, which is The Art of Marvel Rivals. I love playing Marvel Rivals. It's a fun game for me, mostly because I'm a Marvel fan, and I do like games, especially ones that let me play as Storm. So this is the art book they put out. It actually sold out like everywhere, and I was like, oh, dang, maybe it's not going to go on sale. Ended up snagging this from Barnes & Noble's website because I had, due to their triple stamps and double stamps promotions, I had built up enough rewards that I just had to wait for them to restock the book and then hit the order button. I paid nothing. I paid nothing for this. I got it for free because I had $55 in rewards built up from things like the Criterion sale that had happened and a few other book purchases and stuff. So I used that to get myself this book, which is cool. They're definitely going to have to do more because this book's definitely like the early era of the game. Like it's got the Fantastic Four in it, but it doesn't have like, I don't think anybody beyond that. So there's still a lot more artwork, of course, as the game keeps growing and expanding. They're on Season 6 right now. I think this only goes through Season 1. So I imagine we'll see another one of these in the future. All right, let's move over to DC. First up, an older book. The Flash by Mark Waid, Book 6, Double Disaster. They've been doing the Mark Waid omnibuses, which are completed, I think. The third one's coming out. I had started with the paperbacks. I have like 1 to 4, and I have 6. So I don't have 5, and then 7 and 8. I think it ended at 8. So I'm kind of like looking to see if maybe now that the Omnis exist, people will start offloading the paperbacks. See if I can find the other 3 volumes instead of rebuying everything in Omnibus. But it's one of my favorite runs of Flash, and I enjoy picking it up. I haven't read this volume in particular, once again, because I don't have 5. I'm a real sequential reader when stuff is like actually sequential. All right, I talked about this book in my best comic collections of 2025 video, which if you haven't checked that out, go check that out so that way you don't get spoiled. But go watch that, come back, and here's Warlord. So Warlord Omnibus, I didn't, I wasn't doing like a here's the top 10 or the top 20 and here's the number 1 best. This is my favorite one though. This is my favorite of last year, and it came out very much at the tail end. I've wanted Mike Grell's Warlord in a nice collection for a long time. When they announced the Omnibus, I couldn't be happier. When the Omnibus came out and it was on this like not newsprint but kind of matte finish paper so that the colors look like the original comics, I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier with this book. I have absolutely 0 complaints. If you've never read Warlord before, if you want to try it out, they got the first chunk of issues on DC Universe, even though the restoration's not as good. It's not using these scans, but like older ones. Go check it out. See if you like it. If you do, absolutely recommend the Omnibus. Also, easiest Omni I ever read because this thing basically weighs nothing. Like the weight of it is just the hardback. It's not the papers. The paper is so lightweight, it's crazy. Like I have no trouble. There's not that much strength in my index finger and thumb, but here I am, just able to carry this. It also made it super easy to read. None of that overly weighty thing that happens with Omnis. Also, even though it's like that thick, it's like 800 pages, but can't recommend it enough. I absolutely love this comic. I can't wait for volume 2. All right, what's funny is on the opposite end of the spectrum, here's a book that's twice as many pages and like 17 times heavier, which is the Green Lantern Rebirth Compendium, which was also in that Best Comic Collections video. I read the entire thing, and so I want to talk. I want to talk about the book. The book's great, by the way. Go check out the best of video so you know what's great about it. I do want to go over the contents for those wondering. This contains all of the Green Lantern, starting with the Green Lantern Rebirth miniseries. So this is like 2004 onward, and it's all Green Lantern. So what you have in this specific order, it's in reading order, which I love. So you have the Green Lantern Rebirth miniseries, then you have the first 6 issues of Green Lantern, then you have the Guy Gardner Collateral Damage 2-shot, which is not good, but it's the first time it's ever been collected. The Rann-Thanagar War is included here, plus the special, which, you know, people are mixed on that series. I kind of enjoy it. That's an Infinite Crisis time, but it's very key to Kyle Rayner's story, so it's here. Then you got Green Lantern Corps Recharge, the 5-issue series, some more issues of Green Lantern, issues of Green Lantern Corps, all 12 issues of Ion, the Kyle Rayner series that has been reprinted before in normal trades, but never again. And then it goes further with more Green Lantern Corps and Green Lantern. So let's see, Corps goes up to, I think Corps goes up to 6, if I'm not mistaken. No, Corps goes up to 9, and then Green Lantern goes up to 17. And then you get all of Ion, and you get the Guy Gardner Collateral Damage and Rann-Thanagar War. It is a very spectacular volume. If you're somebody that already has like the Jeff Johns Green Lantern omnibuses and the Patrick Gleason, Peter J. Tomasi Green Lantern Corps omnibuses, there's going to be a lot of double dipping, but it does contain the issues that aren't in the Green Lantern Corps omnibuses because they weren't done by Tomasi and Gleason. It does contain other side stuff like Rann-Thanagar War and Ion, which was not in those omnis. So take your pick. Like, if Kyle Rayner's a big character for you, I would recommend this over the other editions, even if you have the other editions, because unless we get like an Ion omnibus from DC, which seems a little unlikely, because we just don't get that many Green Lantern omnis in general. If you don't get that, you're going to be missing out on some of Kyle's best character work, and so I do recommend this. Also, this thing's got a $60 cover price. You hit it up on sale. Yeah, you'll double dip, but it's not going to be as bad. Now, the question that comes up with a 1,600-page paperback, which I couldn't answer back when I did the best editions video, was because I didn't haven't read the entire thing. I've read the entire thing now. How is the spine? So, yeah, 1,600-page paperback. As you can see, there is a little bit of a crease. Again, I've read this cover to cover. I am a responsible book owner. I wasn't flopping this thing around too much. I have a pillow that I use. I'll set it on a blanket, something just to kind of get the weight off the spine. But as you can notice, there is this one crease, a little tiny. It's super minor. That happened because I dropped the book. So I was reading it and it slipped, and I didn't want to lose my place, and so I caught it like this, and then the other half of the book pulled a little bit, and then yeah, it put a little bit of a crease in there. It's not a full crack, like it still holds incredibly well, but that was all on me. Just reading it cover to cover, it was fine. Naturally, it's a paperback. It's not going to stay perfect forever if you want to read it. That's just how it is. But I will say this doesn't feel like one day I'm going to pick it up and all the pages are going to fall out. Like the glued binding on this thing feels sturdy. No guarantees. Again, I've only had it for a month now. Next month we're getting the second one. So it's just, it's something to keep an eye out. It is a paperback. It's not a hardcover. I think it's going to be fine, though. Honestly, I went through the whole thing, and yeah, the only time I damaged it was when I dropped it like an idiot. So if you're careful, you should be fine. Also, yeah, the Green Lantern Sinestro Corps War Compendium's coming next, which is going to be another big, thick book. Once again, containing everything, not just the parts that certain creators worked on. And I'm looking forward to that. And then I sort of expect a Blackest Night Compendium after that, which is just the 10th anniversary Omni in paperback form. So we'll see how that goes, because that thing's even more pages than this, so it'll be interesting. But I'm loving this format, because for a character like Green Lantern, like with DC Finest, when they're doing like, certain eras, it's totally fine, because there's only like 1-2 books at most. When you get to a book like this, and you got Green Lantern, you got all these miniseries, you got all these ongoings, it's kind of better to just put them out in huge-ass chunks like this, instead of trying to do like, a 600-page book, like 1,600 at a time. That's how you handle an interconnected sub-universe like Green Lantern. All right, let's kick it over to Marvel. Let's start with new releases with Werewolf by Night, The Howling Tome. So, Werewolf by Night was part of Marvel relaunching the Werewolf by Night comic under their Red Band. And the whole idea behind Red Band is they're supposed to be explicit content because they're more violent. And I find this book to be just as violent as any other T+ Marvel book, but that was the marketing scheme. And the original issues were done in polybags, and they were like, they got more violence, so they're Red Band. And then we didn't know about what was going on with the trades. The trades were super delayed for a while, and then we finally got an announcement, and they announced Werewolf by Night Volume 1. And then like a week later, they announced that Werewolf by Night Red Band was ending with issue 10. So then they canceled the Volume 1 trade and then solicited this one, which contains all 10 issues, plus the Blood Hunt one-shot that ties into things, the Blood Moon Rise one-shot written by Werewolf by Night director Michael Giacchino, and then the Werewolf by Night story from Crypto Shadows 2024. So I kind of like this. Marvel, we know if you follow single-issue stuff, Marvel has a bad tendency of not letting books get past issue 10. The policy currently is if it's announced as an ongoing, it gets 10 issues guaranteed. But a lot of these books don't make it past 10. And it's very annoying when you have two different trade paperbacks when it's only a 10-issue series. Like and the thing is too, we already know they're canceled before that first trade comes out. And so I honestly think that like it works out better in the long run if you just, keep the first trade at a bit of a distance. If, because this is the thing. Marvel doesn't look at digital sales or trade paperback sales to decide if a book keeps continuing. Apparently, they're only worried about single-issue pre-orders, which I think is insane and outdated, and Marvel editorial is really out of touch for that being their metric because, sound off in the comments how many of you buy single issues. I do, but I also have a local comic shop. Not many people do. So the fact they haven't embraced the future and realized that trades is where more sales happen and digital is where more sales happen is why these books keep lasting only 10 issues, because they're like, oh, well, issue 1 didn't get that many pre-orders. Let's just cancel it at issue 10. And it's like, yeah, how's the series ever supposed to find an audience that way? Anyways, it's dumb. But since we know that's the method, they already know if they're deciding to continue a book or not before that first trade needs to be fully solicited. So, yeah, I kind of like what happened here, where they just pulled back that volume 1 and then just gave us the entire series in one go, plus the extras that go with it, the extra one-shots. So this is kind of like a catch-up Werewolf by Night volume. So I'm glad to see it. Also, the series was fun. We got both Werewolf by Nights. We got Jack Russell and Jake Gomez. They also threw in Reptile from Avengers. Was it Avengers Academy? Not super up in my Avengers. I just remember him from Superhero Show, the Superhero Squad show. So, it's really fun. There's a ton of villains involved. I love this series. It was nice to finally get a new Werewolf by Night comic that wasn't just a one-shot. And sadly, it only lasted long enough to put it all into a $35 trade paperback. But recommended. I like it. So remember how I was just saying it's really annoying to have 2 volumes for a 10-issue series? Case in point, Wolverine. So here's volume 2, Hell Hulk Unleashed. Wolverine's done after this. This is 6 to 10. We had 1 to 5. We already knew it was toast before the first volume came out, and yet here I have to have 2 trades for 10 issues. Would have just liked them combined. I would have just liked them combined instead. This just kind of feels like, man, that's an excessive amount of trade paperbacks for such a short series. Anyways, this follows the new Wolverine, which is Akihiro, and his adventures against the Hell Hulk and an organization. You also see the previous Wolverine titles are there. It's Ghost Rider meets Wolverine. I really like it. It's like 100%, my thing. So I really enjoyed it, but of course I also was like, this thing ain't gonna last past 10, and it did not. Now he's gonna be in Inglorious X-Force, which we'll see if that lasts past 10, because the only X-Men books to last past 10 lately are X-Men, and Uncanny X-Men, and Wolverine. Speaking of Wolverine and X-Men, so Wolverine and Kitty Pryde is another Chris Claremont. I'm going to do a miniseries to take place in the past, because this seems to be kind of, I don't want to say keeps Chris Claremont at bay, but Marvel does keep giving him a chance to write in the past during his X-Men run. I enjoy some of these. I don't enjoy others. I always pick them up, though. So if anyone's wondering why do they keep making these, I'm sorry, I'm to blame. But, I really like Chris Claremont's X-Men era, and so when he does new stuff, it takes place in the past and retcons things and fits in continuity weird, I'm going to read it. It's just how it goes. But anyways, this is a follow-up to the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries from the 80s, and it's Wolverine and Kitty Pryde. So it's like, it's funny too, because I think this is 5 issues. I think the original was only 4. Let's check the next book and find out. because released not too far apart, was X-Men Epic Collection Life Death, which contains Kitty Pryde and Wolverine 1-6. So the new one's actually shorter. It's funny too, because there was one Wolverine miniseries that was like 5 issues and took place between 2 Uncanny issues. It's like, wow, okay, so the new story is longer than the old one. Anyways, this is X-Men 176 to 188 and Kitty Pryde and Wolverine 1-6. This is volume 11 of the X-Men epics, and this has one of my favorite X-Men stories of all time, Life Death. I'm a huge Storm fan, as is very apparent from every time I talk about Storm. I love Storm. I think that Storm as a character is absolutely fantastic, and I think Claremont did an amazing job with her during his run, and there's a lot of really great stuff with Storm, but one of the most iconic storylines is Life Death, and it is one of the most beautiful issues ever, because Barry Windsor Smith has just exceptional artwork on this. We already had Life Death Part 2 in the gift, so it's nice to have Part 1 here, and then also all the stories leading up to it. And as you can see, I'm currently reading it because I have been doing a daily reading of the Claremont X-Men, which is being, there's a community effort being done with it lately, and I think that's super cool. I think it's super awesome. Everybody's been kind of participating in that for a few months now. It's like every day you read an issue of Claremont X-Men, and honestly, there are worse daily habits. I think that one's honestly pretty good. So, and this came out right at the right time, because this was a gap we needed between 10 and 12. So I'm quite enjoying it. It's a great era. John Romita Jr. and Chris Claremont together is a good pairing, I think. And there's a lot of great storylines going on. Again, Storm especially. This is her punk hair, the punk rock look that is iconic, but some people don't know the context behind that. She was having a bit of an identity crisis during this time and wanting to find herself. And there was this great line where she talked about how a lot of times as an X-Men she was having like, oh, here's my costume persona as Storm, and here's myself as Aurora, and what if I just merged the two together? And that's kind of like the origin for that look. Plus, she took over leadership of the Morlocks from Callisto in the previous volume, and so she took on a similar appearance to Callisto as she takes on that new role. Then also see Rogue's involved. They're not like friends here, but they're starting to work together. But great era of X-Men. So one of my other favorite X-Men is Wolverine. Here we go. So I had initially decided I would just get the Wolverine epics for the Larry Hama run, because I really like Larry Hama, like his Wolverine. Then I decided, I got a volume 2. I got a volume 2 pretty cheap. And I was like, oh, okay. And Larry Hama starts at 3. So I was like, okay, let me go back and get 1. And then I had this whole adventure of getting volume 1. It's in a previous comic haul. Go check those out. Of getting a volume 1 with the correct spine placement. So I got that. And I was like, okay, do I want to get 12 through 15? So here I am. Went on eBay. Got myself a copy of volume 12, Shadow of Apocalypse. Not too bad. This is $19.99. This isn't going for too much for the most part. This is a pretty easy volume to come across, luckily. Late 90s X-Men is not a well-loved era by many. I don't love it in particular. I probably never even read any of the issues inside this, which I will now that I'm doing this. This is the whole Apocalypse of 12 storyline. Yeah, it's not the best. This is 133, 149, Hulk number 8, and Wolverine and Cable graphic novel. So I'm going to read it, though. I think I'm going to have fun. Because the thing was that, like, sometimes you look back on eras and you're like, oh, wow, No Nose Wolverine was kind of a rough era. And then I read the Epic collection with those issues because written by Larry Hama. And I was like, oh, it's actually fun. It's not great, but I had fun with it. So that's kind of what spurned this. And I got lucky with a deal on volume 13, Blood Debt, which goes for more than I thought it would because, again, it's late 90s X-Men. This is 99 to 2002. My only guess is because, it does have 150 to 158 and annual 99, but I think it's because it has the Wolverine The Origin series, which some people love. I'm not one of them. I don't mind exploring Wolverine's origin. I just don't like this comic. There's somebody else wrote it and drew it. God, why is that tripping me up? If someone else had done that, would have been more into it. I'm just not a super big fan of how the story progresses, but it is an important part in Wolverine's story, and I'd rather have it here in an epic as opposed to as a standalone volume. It's also got a lot of Liefeld art. If you're into Liefeld art, I'm also not into Liefeld art. Probably like, why'd you buy the volume? Because it's volume 13, and I decided I'm going for all in. I got a 14 and 15 coming, and then I'll have all the Wolverine epics, and then it's just a matter of the ones coming out that I don't have, and then I'll have all of it, which which is cool. And they'll probably do modern epics, and I'll get those. Because I had the same thing. It's like, you know, even when it's not great, or even if I don't enjoy it that much, like, I like Wolverine as a character so much. Like, Logan's just fun to read. Good or bad. It's like watching, like, a B movie, where you're like, technically this isn't great, but I'm having a good time watching it. That's what it feels like to read Wolverine comics. All right, so speaking of X-Men, I went to another comic shop in town, not my usual one. My usual one was closed for a couple weeks. They're remodeling, and so I was like, okay, let me go check out some other shops. Went and got this, which was actually a pretty good find. So Longshot is an X-Men character from Mojo World. You probably recognize Mojo World from the animated series. Like, almost every animated series adapts Mojo. He runs a TV network, a reality TV, and he's like a villain because all his reality TV is real and everybody's in danger. And he runs Mojo World, and Longshot is a character from there. And Longshot is a character that carries forward in the Outback era of X-Men. He's a very important character. And this series is done by Ann Nocenti, one of my favorite writers, as well as Arthur Adams. And so this was a 6-issue miniseries introducing Longshot and the world of Mojo World. Why'd you pick up this trade, you say? Because I collect the X-Men Epics? Because for some reason it's not in the Epics. They skipped right over it. I was kind of waiting. I was hoping that Longshot would make it in. It's not like when they didn't include the Magic miniseries, because they didn't include the Magic miniseries, even though that tied into an X-Men story, because Magic would then go on to be a New Mutants character, so they put it over in the New Mutants Epics, I believe. This, I don't know where this is going to go, because the X-Men Epics have covered over the years that this came out, and I don't know what's going on, unless they plan to do like an X-Men adjacent line that's like X-Men Solo and they throw it in there. I have no idea. And because I have no idea, when I came across a cover price copy of the Longshot trade with the miniseries in it, I said, of course, I need to get it. First of all, it's an Ann Nocenti comic, and anytime I see Ann Nocenti's name on a comic, I know I'm going to enjoy it. Second of all, I have read this before, and so I enjoy it. And third of all, yeah, it's kind of important to introduce Longshot and Mojo. It's a weird exclusion from the Epic line for sure. So I don't know what the plan was there, but I'm glad I was able to find this volume, so at least I have that gap filled in my collection. All right, let's round this out with a synergy purchase, because this was made a couple years ago because the show's been in works for a while. So we have the Wonder Man Early Years Omnibus. And so Wonder Man, which just had his Disney Plus debut, fantastic show, by the way. I'm one of like 5 Wonder Man fans in the world, and I think the original comic character is lame as hell to the general public. I like the character, but I also like the potential of the character, not so much the execution. So I was so happy when the show just decided, let's keep the vibe, let's keep the spirit, and then just throw everything else out and redo it and make it better. I think the show is fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Anyways, Wonder Man got an omnibus, and he got a Saga trade paperback because they were doing those to prep for the shows, but a bunch of shows got delayed. So like the Ironheart ones came out like a couple years before the show. Same thing with Wonder Man. This came out in 2023, I believe. So this is a anthology omnibus, which Marvel will do from time to time, where they'll take a character who doesn't really have his own title, and then they'll just put in like key appearances, right? So like, check this out. There is all that. So here's the thing. If you have the Avengers and the West Coast Avengers omnibuses, this is essentially useless to you, because all of this is in those. Maybe some of this Vision and Scarlet Witch isn't, but like, for the most part, all of this is in other books. So you don't necessarily need it. Wonder Man #1, I know, is in the West Coast Epics, and I know that pretty much all of these are somewhere at some point in other books. This is not something you really need. It would have been cool if this did contain the 2000s Wonder Man stuff. The 90s Wonder Man series was written by a pedophile and will never see the light of day again. But the 2000s stuff was in the Saga trade paperback, but not in the omnibus, even though I think he probably could have squeezed it in. I mean, this book is thick, but it's not that thick. Anyways, long story short, this thing did not sell very well. It is still in stock a lot of places years later. Again, it's Wonder Man. I like the character, but I'm one of the weird people that does. There's just not many of us. But I didn't even buy it, right? Like, I didn't buy this until just recently because there's an eBay seller called Fanaticals, who is a nonprofit company that gets books and then sells them cheap. So they put this up on their eBay page, and I was looking around. I was like, all right, for $45, sure, it's Wonder Man. I'm one of 5 fans. Might as well get it. Cool part about them, they threw in a free book, which was a Mighty Marvel Masterworks Fantastic Four Volume 3, which contains issues 21 to 29. This was a line that Marvel did for a bit, where it was a Marvel Masterworks volume, but in digest size, which is great. I think this is fantastic. Don't know why they stopped, besides also stopping Masterworks. Cool part, these are issues from one of the Fantastic Four epics I don't have, so that fills a little gap. But anyways, I do have a bone to pick with this book. I know, I'm going to complain about the Wonder Man Omnibus because, again, crazy Wonder Man fan. I've been reading through it, and this thing is a bit of a mess. So apologies to the editor of this book. I don't agree with your mapping. So first of all, it does come, of course it has the first appearance of Wonder Man. He showed up as a villain, he died, didn't see him again for a while. His brain patterns were used to make Vision. That's not put in here. But then they jump ahead to Avengers 131, where he comes back to life as a zombie, and then he shows back up in 151 to 153 and this annual story. And the problem I have is that in the early part of the book, you get past his initial debut, he shows up sometimes in this storyline where he's brought back, and it's like, okay, but then you start getting these issues where Simon Williams only shows up for like a couple pages, and yet you get the entire issue, which is nice, but also I kept finding myself turning the pages going, this is a Wonder Man omnibus, not an Avengers omnibus. If you wanted the full Avengers stories, that's what the Avengers omnibuses exist for. So there's like, you go page after page, and I'm like, I don't care about the wizard's son being evil. Where's Wonder Man? And then he'll be here for one page, and then he'll be gone again. I think this could have used some curation. I think maybe just include the parts he was in for some of these issues, because he's kind of a subplot for a while before you get to this. And I think you could have used the page count and instead put in the modern stuff and made it a more one-and-done complete Wonder Man omnibus. That's my thought, especially this issue. This issue, I was like, so where's the Wonder Man? And then he shows up finally here. So I haven't read too much further past that. I'm still waiting for him to become an actor, which is like the thing that Wonder Man, outside of Wonder Man being, Vision's brain patterns and having a love triangle with Wanda at some point, him being an actor is a big thing, and so they haven't gotten to that. I will say, I do appreciate that they put the first appearance of the Grim Reaper in, because he's not in Wonder Man's debuts, and Wonder Man's not in the Grim Reaper story, but it is Wonder Man's brother, so it goes with the complete story idea. This felt like it could have been great if it was just tweaked a little bit. I'm just not super happy with how the contents are laid out, and I feel like it needed a little bit, maybe some abridging, just to kind of get to the story point a little bit quicker. Again, it's fine for an Avengers Omni to have everything. This is a repetitive Omni to begin with. Maybe just shrink it down a little bit for a better reading experience. So that was a fun haul, some good variety. January is always an interesting month. We're kind of catching up from last year, going towards the next year. February should be really interesting. Let's find out how many Sailor Moon volumes ended up picking up, and also some other really cool new releases in the future. So if you don't want to miss out, hit the like button, subscribe to the notification bell. Also, in the comment section down below, tell me what you got. Tell me what you thought was the coolest out of everything I got. Also, if you want to continue the conversation, you can join our Discord server in the link below. You can also join as a channel member and get perks like early access to videos. Let's give some special shout-outs to some of our channel members. Special shout out to all of our channel members, including Spin-54, Forever1000, MasterBen95, Super Shaddix Boom, Veloquince, Rogue Leader 2448, Mr. Smelly Potato, Alt Mode Archive, Alice James, and Taran Thomas. Thank you all for your support, viewers and channel members alike. If you so wish, I'm on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can also find my Wonderful Graphic Designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. Plus, you can find Hero Club at heroesclub.com for comic reviews and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, see you in the next haul.